Jacob Burton here from StellaCulinary.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you the proper ratio and techniques for making great mashed potatoes, whether plain or flavored like this with roasted garlic and chives. So here I have some russet potatoes. Now, different chefs use different potatoes. Some like to use Yukon Golds. There's other specialty potatoes available. I think russets make great mashed potatoes. They're good at soaking up liquid and moisture, and especially the fat, but also too, they're commonly available in the local supermarket. So you can play around with potatoes if you like. Now here I'm just going to peel them down, cut them into quarters, and then cross cut into even chunks. Now you don't have to be exact here, but you want them all roughly the same size so they cook somewhat evenly. Now once you have them peeled and cut into chunks, go ahead and place into an appropriate size pot, meaning it'll just fit the potatoes. And this is an important step. You want to rinse the potatoes under cold running water. So you see how it's cloudy at first? What I'm doing here is I'm agitating the potatoes and I'm rinsing them a few times until my potato water runs clear, and this is going to pull off excess starch, which would otherwise make my mashed potatoes gummy. Cover with cold water and place over a high flame. Now, if you want to make the flavored version, shown here with the roasted garlic and chives, you can roast garlic any number of ways, but here I'm just simply covering some peeled garlic cloves with some extra light olive oil, and I'm going to place this over a low flame and gently simmer until golden brown. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to measure out my butter, and basically for every pound of potatoes you have that peeled and cut, you want to have about 3 ounces of butter and 1 ounce of cream. Now, you can scale this ratio up to make the potatoes more rich, but you really don't want to go any less than 3 ounces of butter and 1 ounce of cream per 1 pound of potatoes. Now, once the potatoes are fork tender, once they've been brought to a simmer and they're fork tender, go ahead and drain in a colander in your sink. Now here I'm using what's called a food mill. I'm going to do a couple of cranks forward, a couple of cranks back, and this is going to pass the potatoes through a fine die, and this is going to give me some nice creamy mashed potatoes because that's what I'm making and that's my preference. Now you can also use a potato ricer, which has a lever action on it, or you can just use a hand masher, and the hand masher isn't going to give you a creamy consistency, but it'll still mash your potatoes. Bottom line, though, you don't want to overwork it. So see how I have some nice rice granules of potatoes here? Now I'm going to just stir in my melted butter and cream. So I melted them in the pot together. I'm going to stir that in using a spatula here, and I want to make sure that I'm folding it, but I'm not overworking it, because the more you work the potatoes, the more gummy they will become. Now I'm going to strain off my roasted garlic, and I'm going to reserve some of that oil for another use. But I'm basically going to take a couple tablespoons of that oil and drizzle it into my potatoes. That's going to add some extra fat and flavor. And I'm going to chop up my roasted garlic cloves into a fine mince almost. And then some chives, just stuff fresh, cross-cut into a fine mince, and then add this into the potatoes. And again, this is optional. Now you want to season this with salt and pepper to taste. I prefer to use white pepper, but you can use black pepper, whatever you like. Now here I have a double boiler, so I have a pot of boiling water or simmering water underneath my pot that's holding the potatoes. I'm going to place this on the back of my stove until it's ready to serve. And this will keep your potatoes nice and hot for a couple of hours, so you can make your potatoes ahead of time and then focus on making your other dishes that are going to go with your potatoes. I like to garnish with just a little cross cut of chives and sprinkle that right on top. And there you go. That's chive mashed potatoes. And this night, I actually served this with a braised beef short rib, which I'll put a link to in the show notes at StellaCulinary.com.